What's going on, everyone? All right, so first time going live on the channel here, so we'll see how this goes. What's going on, everyone? Give me 1 sec to get set up here. Let me know if you guys can hear. All right, let's get into it. All right, so we know the Ravens recently cut our guy Marquise Brown, and we had a mixed bag of reactions from the fan base. We had some guys saying, you know what, whatever, forget about it. Marquise was not our true number one, and we'll be better off without him. We won't have to force some targets or whatever. And then we had some guys saying, you know, this is going to drastically hurt the team. This is going to kill the Ravens offense because he completely changes the way an offense is set up and the way defenses have to defend the Ravens whenever he's on the field. And I'm a little bit kind of in the middle of that. I think Marquise Brown was a luxury to have as a deep threat. He definitely got open and stretched the field, but was he a true number one receiver? Was he that guy that we have been craving here in Baltimore? I don't think so. I truly think that guy is already on the roster in Rashad Bateman, but I definitely think that we could use some veteran help and some improvements here. So I'm going to go ahead and get into my top guys who I think would best fit the Ravens receiving room. And I'm going to go ahead and start off in order. So my first guy here, the guy who I think is the best fit for the Ravens, is Jarvis Landry. We saw right here, there's a report on the screen from the NFL, so it's legit, that the Ravens have received, they have interest in Jarvis Landry. If you put two and two together here, it makes perfect sense because Jarvis Landry's been a thorn in the Ravens' side ever since he's been there in Cleveland. We've seen him get open, break tackles, and just make plays against us. He's only 29 years old. And let's look at some of his recent stats here. So if you look at 2018 to 2019, and then the last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, he's definitely had a dip off in his production. But I think part of that was due to, first of all, Baker wasn't really healthy last year, and he had a lot of spotty, inconsistent quarterback play, and he only played 12 games last year. So, but as far as a guy who brings someone who can get over the middle, who's physical, and like I said, Lamar Jackson loves to throw the ball over the middle, and Jarvis Landry really thrives in that. So let me know, how would you guys feel about, we're playing Kansas City in the playoffs, and it's 3rd down and 10. You got Jarvis Landry, Rashad Bateman, and Mark Andrews, and maybe Devin Duvernay on the field. How do you feel about that? I feel a lot better about that. Having a guy who's been there in big moments, who's played in the playoffs, who has experience. I'd really love to see Jarvis here in Baltimore. I think he'd be a really good fit. The question is, what's the cost? How much is it going to cost to keep this guy or to bring this guy to Baltimore? But I like how he's only 29. We kind of see that that 30 to 33 age range for wide receivers is kind of the point where they start to drop off pretty drastically. saw it with Julio and some other big time receivers. So Jarvis, I think he's in that sweet spot where he's still got another 2 to 3 years of really good production. He has been a number one receiver before, but we don't really need him to be that. That's what Mark Andrews is for, and that's what Rashad Bateman's for. So let me know what you guys think. So on to the next guy. All right. My second guy who I think would be a really good fit here in Baltimore is Will Fuller. So I know he has some off the field stuff. I know he's been injured quite often. But if you're looking for a guy that can stretch the field, who can actually make a defense change the way they play you, Will Fuller's that guy. He was a first-round draft pick. He has experience. He's been there, done that in the playoffs. And we need a guy who can win downfield. Now, it's a little bit counterintuitive what I just said with Jarvis Landry, but there's two ways to skin a cat here. You can just simply add more talent and get guys that can get open and big body type guys like Landry, or you can go out and get a guy like Fuller who can beat you downfield, but also has some size. He's 6'1", to make some contested catches type of grabs. So I wouldn't mind Will Fuller here. The thing is if you look at 2019 to 2021, his production has just basically kind of dropped off. But he didn't play a lot last year. He had that suspension for the performance enhancing drugs, as well as some other issues. So Will Fuller, he's only 28, but hey, he's a free agent receiver that can at least come in and help the room, and can at least be a number 2 or number 3 option behind Bateman, Andrews, or Duvernay. So I wouldn't mind the signing here with Will Fuller. I just want to talk about who's out there, who are some options for the Baltimore Ravens. So Will Fuller is definitely a guy that I wouldn't mind bringing in. Let me know what you guys think. All right. My next guy is Julio Jones. Reason why I have him third on here is because his injury concerns. And I know Will Fuller had the same thing, but he's at least 28 and not 33. So he's Will Fuller's 5 years younger. And some of the issues with these receivers as they get older isn't always just production, but their ability to stay healthy, because just the amount of wear and tear and making cuts in and out of breaks on your joints and on your body over time definitely takes a toll. So Julio Jones, he's my next guy here. How would you feel if it was Julio Jones, Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay, and Mark Andrews on the field all in the same time whenever we're playing Buffalo or Kansas City in a playoff game? Do you feel better about that than the guys we have on the roster right now? The other thing is Julio brings a guy who, again, playoff experience, been to the Super Bowl, a veteran presence who can help groom some of these younger wide receivers, and a big physical guy that can still win on the outside. Maybe he's not the same Julio of old, but he can still win on the outside. The big red flag here, the big concern, the reason why he's still on the market is because look at these game stats here. We had in 2020 9 games, in 2021 10 games. So we're talking about a guy who basically missed half the season, both of the last 2 seasons. So his production has just dropped off really steep. We saw in 2018 he had 1,600 yards. He was probably the single most best receiver in the NFL at the time, and just completely dropped off. After, not completely, but in 2019 had that drop off, and then 2020 missed a bunch of time, and then 2021 missed a bunch of more time. So his trajectory, his career path is not really going in the right direction right now. So I don't know how I feel about that, but you're talking about a guy who can bring a veteran presence, who can still get open and still win when he's on the field. It's just the question is how often and when is he going to be on the field. So that's why he's my number 3 guy. I still think he would come in and help and add some actual pass catching ability and threat that, he can still get open and play at a high level when he's healthy. So my last guy here, Odell Beckham Jr. You may ask, why do I have him last on here out of all these guys? I don't think he's a great fit in Baltimore, to be honest. And I can see here that I misspelled his name with Beckham right here, but get your point, right? I don't think he's a great fit in Baltimore. I think he's more of a crisp time route running type receiver where he would fit in better to a different style of offense where, he's not asked to block a bunch. And he would bring that speed to get open downfield and it would help kind of replace Marquise Brown. But I just don't think he's the best fit compared to Landry and Julio and Will Fuller. The other thing is he tore his ACL, right, in the Super Bowl, and that was January. So by the time he gets back on the field, we may be looking at December, November timeframe. Obviously, the rehab process has gotten a lot better with the ACL injuries. But usually about a year is the typical time frame where guys are fully back and ready to rock. So obviously same thing here. And 2020 he only played 7 games, and then 2021 he played 14 games. And the trajectory is also not really going on the right path. In 2019 we had 1,000 yards. In 2020 only 300, and in 2021 500. But the thing is, in the playoffs, he was looking good. He was looking like the old Odell Beckham Jr. in New York, where he was just burning guys downfield, getting open, making plays after the catch. He was just a playmaker. But I don't think I don't know, does he still have that in him? He's 29 years old. I think he's still got another 1 or 2 or 3 years maybe of good football in him, kind of like Landry. But the reality is that there is these guys are still out there and on the market for a reason. So yes, can they come in and help a team immediately upgrade in the wide receiver core? Yeah, but is there some risk involved with maybe injury issues, off the field concerns, locker room issues? Yeah, and that's why some of these guys are still on the field or still in the free agent market. With Julio, is injuries. We haven't really heard anything about his character issues. Odell Beckham kind of been pegged as a drama queen at times, but we don't really know if that's the case. He hasn't really had any major off the field concerns. People say he's a little bit of a diva, but it's kind of up to individual judgment. I don't think it's a league-wide perception of him. And then Jarvis Landry, I think he's probably the best guy out there, and that's why he's the number 1 target for me. He may not be the most flashiest or sexiest guy to bring in, like Julio, at his best, or Odell Beckham at his best. But you're talking about just a blue-collar player that gets open, that blocks. He was in a run-heavy system in Cleveland that ran the ball a lot. And so we know he's not going to be whining about targets. And we know he gets open consistently. We know he makes plays. So for me, it's my guy, Jarvis Landry. He's the top target. And yeah, then it's Will Fuller. Just take a flyer, guy who can get open downfield. And then Julio. And then my last guy, like I said, was Odell Beckham. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, the fifth option is none of these guys, right? Letting James Prochet and Devin Duvernay and Tylan Wallace just go out there and play. Because the reality is if you bring in one of these vets, it's going to take away targets and playing time from the young guys. And the guy I'm really looking at is kind of under the radar for a lot of people, a lot of Ravens fans. It's Tylan Wallace, man. I thought Tylan, first of all, coming out of college, whenever I was looking at the receiver class last year, he was one of my like top 5 outside receivers that I really liked. Thought he was explosive, physical, good after the catch. And then we saw him every time he got an opportunity. He only had like 2 catches last year for Baltimore, but out of those 2 catches, man, he showed good hands, ability to adjust to the ball in the air, and he broke tackles. I remember he had like an 18-yard catch, or it was like a 5-yard slant over the middle against Cincinnati, and he broke a tackle, bounced off a guy with a spin move, and got down the field, made a really big time play on 3rd down, and got the chains moved. And I think Tylan Wallace, for me, he's that guy that I want to see as like the number 2 or 3 receiver behind Rashad Bateman and Devin Duvernay. So, and then again, Devin Duvernay, it's like Ravens fans that were like, where's this guy at, man? Why isn't he getting the ball more? Because every time he touched the ball, he was breaking a tackle or making a play. He was really good with the ball in his hands. So a lot of this is going to be up to the offensive staff and Greg Roman. Can they get the best out of these young receivers? Or do you think there's room to bring in a vet? Now, it can go – I'm kind of split down the middle because part of me wants to say, man, Tylan Wallace, James Prochet, go out and ball, do your thing, get your opportunities. But then another part of me is like, man, we could really use a vet who's been there, done that, played in playoff games, is a proven commodity, and a guy who can kind of mentor these young guys. So let me know what you guys think. I'm really curious. Let me know in the comment section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little live stream. This is my first one, like I said, so bear with me. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Don't forget, tomorrow is the day that the schedule is being released, and I'll give you guys a little nugget here. I will be going to a minimum of 3 of those games for Baltimore this year. I'm definitely going to the Baltimore-Cincinnati game at home, and planning on going to the Baltimore-Cincinnati game in Cincinnati, going to the Jungle on a road trip with my buddy who's a big Bengals fan, and then probably see another game there in Baltimore as well. So at least 3 games I'm looking at being in the bank, cheering on my guys. So super excited about that. Make sure you go follow us on Twitter at For The Flock. We need some love over there. We have a good amount of subscribers here on YouTube, but only like 15 followers on Twitter, so we need some love over there, man. So let me know what you guys think of these receivers. Do we need to add a